Woman walks past homeless man every day. Then he hands her a note revealing his true identity. Woman passes homeless man daily. His true identity is revealed later on. The elderly man has been homeless for almost 30 years, and after spending some time talking to him every day, Shaloman Taro realized she could change his life in more ways than one. Shalom Montero, a 2011 New York University Stern School of Business graduate, observed something odd about the region she was walking in. She passed this street often, but something caught her eye this time, and she stopped to examine. Also, if you have not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. Now back to the story. A man sat beneath a tree in a grassy area just off the road. He was hunched over and focused. Somehow, Shala's curiosity awoke when she observed a man sitting by the roadside with a tent and other stuff indicating he was staying there. As she approached, she noticed the man was elderly and scribbling something down. But what was he scribbling down with such intensity? She wanted to talk to him more as she approached him. It's difficult to approach a homeless person since you're unsure how to handle them or afraid of offending them. And it turns out that this particular homeless man did the same thing every day. Undeniably, no one ever spoke to this elderly homeless man, but Shallow saw softness in him and was fascinated. What was he doing with the pen and paper? Have you ever talked to the person next to you on a plane or bus and learned they are so much more than you thought? If you listen to a narrative of the stranger to your left, then they may become one of the most amazing persons. But Shallow enjoyed hearing people's stories. She wasn't scared to get to know anyone, no matter who they were. At the end of the day, we're all humans, whether we're famous or not. That doesn't mean approaching someone in a bad circumstance is easy. Shallow wasn't sure how he'd respond to her approaching him, but she tried anyway. After mustering the guts to speak with him, she was moved to tears by their exchange. Meeting someone for the first time can be scary, whether it's a first date or a new job. Imagine how nervous she must have been approaching this elderly man on the street. But she arrived with a smile and an open mind to hear his story and comprehend his actions. Raimundo Aruto Sobrino had been homeless for over 3 decades, but what she learned next changed everything. Raimundo was born on August 1st, 1938 in Goiás, Brazil. When he was 23, he moved over 600 miles to work in Sao Paulo. After 18 years as a gardener, he ran a bookshop. Raimundo had become homeless and had sat in the same area in Sao Paulo ever since. But it wasn't until 1996 that he made it his own. Raimundo's Headley lost everything in the 1970s and had no choice but to live on the street. Can you imagine how difficult it was for him? His love was writing, and he spent his time on an island in the street adjacent, until he met Shalom. He did this for 35 years. Raimundo was delighted to speak with her. He told her his narrative and that he enjoyed writing and that he did so every day on the island, beneath the trees. He gave me one of his poems when I first met him. He entered my life at that point. Shala shares in the condition, a short documentary, but only after reading his work did she know Raimundo's poem was so much more. While artists have a reputation for having a huge ego, they are actually quite sensitive and take pride in their work. As a result, artists, whether painters, musicians, or writers, can be rather private about their work. But Raimundo and Shallow had such a pure connection that he felt he could show her one of his poems. She fell in love with his work and understood how strong or profound his writing was. They started communicating frequently, and Raimundo grew more comfortable with her, showing her more of his work. His poems made her cry, and she liked reading every word on those torn pieces of paper. Raimundo had always wanted to publish a book of his works, but he couldn't due to his situation. This lovely, bright, and brilliant older man blew her away. She understood he wasn't only a poet. As she got to know him and read his work, he was a thinker. Also on top of that, and the fact he couldn't share his work with the world broke her heart. As a street person, Raimundo's desire of publishing a poetry book was unachievable. I felt compelled to act. The video is heartfelt but shallow. Shallow was determined to publish Raymond's exquisite poetry. But how will she accomplish it? Because she had experience in business and marketing, she decided to use one of the world's newest ways to share things: social media. They had no idea how significant this would be for the entire town. You'd think being homeless would be depressing, but Raimundo showed Shala they couldn't be interchanged. She created a Facebook page and a blog for him. She shared his experience and posted his poems to show how amazing and strong he was. He sat on a wooden stool covered in black plastic bags, writing on identically sized pieces of paper. This is the condition Shallow wrote on the official blog. One day, the 74-year-old man's world will be turned upside down. Shallow started a blog and a Facebook page for Raimundo in early 2010. O Condicionado titled the page's Raimundo sign all of his work as The Conditioned. She posted his poems on the page, which exploded in popularity. People started contacting Raimundo directly, not just liking and following his page. If Shala had met Raimundo 5 years ago, she definitely couldn't have helped him. But thanks to the rise of social media and global communication, Raimundo's goal was slowly becoming a reality. It's all about timing. Can you picture how the gifted man must have felt? But what happened next would astound everyone. Shala and Raimundo had become fast friends. Shala would practically visit him every day, exchanging words and reading new things he shared with her. And when she opened her Facebook page, she was not alone in her emotion. But it turns out that Raimundo's wonderful and poetic words weren't enough. Like him, they were interested in superficial. That's when they realized how much their posts and uploads affected a community. After Mundo's social media profiles gained traction, he began to receive more in-person visitors. His words affected and inspired others to the point where they approached him on the island. Shala says in the video, people began to approach him, talk to him, and visit. Say, I saw you. To know you, I always wanted to know but lacked the confidence to ask. That's lovely. It's difficult to arrange your life, since life has its own agenda and obstacles that you can't always plan for. But having goals and desires is important because it gives you a sense of direction and purpose. Raimundo's dreams seemed unachievable, but he kept writing, and before he knew it, his dreams were coming true in unexpected ways. But this beautiful narrative has one more twist. Inspiring and nice words from a gentle, sweet senior man. Unquestionably wise and in his 70s, he'd seen it all, had a home or not. In 2012, Raimundo composed something really important while living in Sao Paulo, Brazil. After Shallow, optimism is the heaviest burden, the idealist's worst nightmare. Though not a book, Shallow was able to publish Raimundo's work so the world might enjoy his exquisite poetry. Others were inspired to interact with Raimundo because of this, as well as Shallow's poignant relationship with him. Many people came by to talk to him, but one individual in particular had been waiting for years to meet Raimundo, and thanks to Shallow, he finally had his chance. Shallow was thrilled to help Raimundo handle his Facebook profile. She would constantly receive notes from admirers of his art from all over the world. But one day Shallow got a message. Unbelievable. Why? Exactly. That person was from Raimundo's past. Shala said in the video she got a message from the page's brother when checking his mailbox. Is it true? Shala received a Facebook message from an unexpected source soon after setting up her page. Raimundo's long-lost sibling. Raimundo hadn't been in touch with his family for years, which explains his loneliness and homelessness. Can you imagine how upset they were? After contacting Charlotte's brother, they scheduled a meeting. Who would have believed this would happen? Raimundo was a homeless man for over 2 decades before he was helped in ways he never imagined. She not only helped him share his work with the world, but also reunite with his family. But how was the reunion? This would be a very emotional situation for all involved. Imagine reuniting with a long-lost brother after all these on Facebook. This is social media at its finest. It's hard to understand what the two were going to go through upon their reunion, and there was some doubt that they were indeed brothers. After all, Raimundo's brother admitted during his video interview that it's hard to know unless he sees him. I found my brother after 57 years when I got on the island. I saw a man surrounded by garbage, hairy, unshaven, and filthy. Nobody can truly predict what will happen when you meet someone for the first time, as Shala did when she met Raimundo. But one thing was certain, they were both overjoyed to finally meet each other. Surprisingly, the reunion was emotional and waterworks. They were overjoyed to be reunited and stunned by the whole situation. But what would happen between the two of them in any manner possible? Like Shala, I invited Raimundo to live with me. My brothers live. All are living. He was the missing piece to our puzzle. How heartwarming. Talk about a joyful ending to a heartbreaking story. And it gets better. His brother invited him to live with him, so he gave him new clothing and a haircut. Raimundo had been cleaned up and reconnected with his family for the first time in 35 years. But how did he feel seeing his family after so long? And how did they all adjust? He isn't a guest. He lives with my kids and wife. He's part of it. Raimundo's sibling, in 2011. Shala and Raimundo became fast friends and remained so till his death in 2020. In 2012, Shala launched the Talented Poet a Facebook profile and his brother found him, reuniting them after a long separation. Then in 2015, they all achieved Raimundo's huge dream. He released a book of his writings, with all of Raimundo's beautiful and philosophical poems and wise comments. His personal tale of rising from rags to riches is the most motivating. Ultimately, he experienced so much love and joy owing to the big-hearted, motivating, and compassionate Shala. Nothing would have been possible without her open mind and compassion. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. If you enjoyed the video, kindly give it a thumbs up, leave a comment in the comments section, and share with others. Thanks for watching, and catch you in the next one.